Well, hello and welcome, my friends, to another 5 minutes with Sean, maybe 10. We are yet again in the sit-down edition. We're having a lot of fun with these lately, so I want to keep the good times rolling. As everyone knows, we're doing the Mental Health Mondays here, and so this is this month's. Now, last month's Mental Health Monday was pretty deep. We talked about really unfortunate things, death, loss, all these things. Today, I'm going to lighten it up a lot, but we also need to talk about things that maybe you're not comfortable with between the years. And that's where our guest today, Christina Joy Whitaker, comes in. Christina, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Doing wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on. So your name came up in a discussion with our friend Lori Holter. She was on the show back a couple months. She's awesome. We love her. Her energy it must be infectious. I've never actually sat next to her, but I can assume doing this that it is infectious. So that's awesome. But when talking to her, we were talking about imposter syndrome and putting some, as you put it, putting names to thoughts. And she had mentioned that she was speaking with you recently when this had happened about the murky middle. And she dove into it a little bit, but it was so new. We were like, oh my gosh, how does one even get here? So if you could, first, Christina, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do for a living, and then really introduce us to how you stumbled upon and really created the concept of the murky middle.
Yeah, of course. Well, first of all, I just want to thank you for sharing your platform. I really appreciate being on here today. I'm incredibly excited. Also thankful for Lori. I love her energy as well. So I'm all here for it. But to introduce myself, my name is Christina Joy Whitaker. I am a leadership and business strategist, and I predominantly work with women of color professionals who are looking to advance in their careers, but also understand that their voices and their messages belong beyond the four walls of their organization. And so I help them in crafting their personal brands so that they are seen, that they are heard, they are paid, and they are known for their thought leadership and expertise. But I also serve as a speaker where I travel around to different organizations and companies talking about engagement, as well as what is really needed in order to tap into the true potential and authenticity of different client populations, especially women in leadership, so they can take full ownership of their positions, take full ownership of their voice going forward. But today, clearly we're here on to talk about the murky middle, and there's a lot of M's going along, murky middle, mental health Mondays, like all of that all together. But listen, I'm excited to talk about this particular concept. And what I realized was, after working in corporate America myself for over a decade, and when I transitioned into doing the work I do right now, working with individual clients, I kept finding that people were getting to a space in their career where maybe they had worked over 10 years, or maybe they had gained all of this expertise, but it felt like they were stuck and they couldn't exactly put a finger on why they felt stuck. And a lot of times what happens, especially with women, when we reach those touch points in life, people are very quick to diagnose it with the imposter syndrome. So I know you've talked about it before. The imposter syndrome is a very real thing. But that particular definition talks about having a feeling or a sense of fraudulence in the workplace and in life in general, and as if somehow you are inadequate or lacking. And at any point in time, you're going to be found out because you don't measure up. And that's a lot of times based in confidence. But what I realized, because I work with so many high achieving professionals, that the dissonance that they were feeling at this point in their careers was not necessarily based in a lack of confidence. They knew that they had kind of the expertise to get to where they were at. They knew they had either the degrees or the pedigree to command a certain level of respect. However, what was happening was they still felt that same discontentment. And so instead of rushing to tell someone, oh man, you just have to lean in, like, oh, you're just hiding back, you're just shrouding beneath what your full capacity is. Instead of telling someone like that, I felt the need that there was a different phenomenon happening and a need to pause to really investigate it. And so when I looked, I saw that so many people, especially high achieving people who had reached certain levels of leadership, felt stuck, but it wasn't based in a lack of confidence. It was more so based in a dissonance or a disconnect between what they were currently doing in their roles and what they felt like they somehow should be doing. So a vision of themselves that was unrealized. And which is why I coined the term the murky middle, because there's a lot of gray area in it, but there's not a cut and dry, like you don't belong, you belong, you walk into a room, you command the space. However, that feeling is still there. And the reason why I differentiated it as the murky middle is because that feeling of dissonance or that feeling of fraudulence is not based with the same root. And so therefore, it can't be solved with the same tools and systems that we would use to address the imposter syndrome. And so I really wanted to delineate that as much as possible for my clients and really shed light on something that I think is markedly different, but just as important as we are growing and developing.
So that's okay. Look, we got a lot to unpack there, right? So, as I told you, the notebook fills up. It fills up fast, and it's a lot of circles in it. So let's go back to first of all, you were in corporate America for a decade. That's what you said, right?
Yes.
Are you now your own boss, or are you part of a team? What is your role today? Are you still in corporate America, or is it your business now?
So I am now my own boss. I run my own business. I have to say, I did not make the stereotypical leap from corporate America into entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship was not something that I necessarily was striving for. It's something that happened as a result of just different circumstances. But what I realized was in a lot of my career, while I was good at a lot of things, I was not necessarily passionate at a lot of things. I had risen up the corporate ladder fairly quickly, where I was working with executive teams. I was working with the CEOs. And at one point, at one particular organization, I was the highest ranking African-American female in a national Fortune 100 company. And so I had checked a lot of marks, but still I felt that sense that something was missing. Like it wasn't exactly what I was supposed to be doing, despite me being talented and proven. And so after I kind of went on this journey of figuring out what is it that's going to work for me? What am I looking for? I ended up being faced with an unexpected layoff. And I'm a person who never, ever, ever thought I would experience that. I love stability. I love knowing where my check is coming every 2 weeks. And so I never, ever thought I would be put into a position of being laid off. But what happened was, while I was having the meeting, I had this feeling that it was going to happen. And while I anticipated feeling some sort of anger or sadness, what I realized was I felt so much relief in that moment. And it shocked me that I felt relieved, that I felt like I had the permission finally to figure out like, what is it I want to do? And quickly after, I was presented with all these opportunities. People basically said, name the place. We'll make sure that you are getting into a role, like you're proven, you're not going to have a lot of lag time. And I had to make the conscious decision to say no. I didn't feel like that's where I needed to be at that time. I wasn't exactly sure at that point what I was going to do, but I knew I had an idea and I started building it out. I knew over and over again when people came to me, especially women looking to advance in their careers and even men, I was able to help them either double salaries. I was able to help them get executive roles. I was able to help them find clarity in their journeys. And I loved doing that. And so I just kind of really paid attention to that and built my business around that. And so right now I operate a fully functional agency where I do both coaching and consulting for topics like that.
It's incredible. And you talk about something that I think now really obviously is your fuel, which is passion. In corporate America, look, God bless you for 10 years of corporate America. As an adult, I worked for clothing stores when I was a kid. So they were corporate, but it was the coolest corporate structure ever. It was the men's warehouse. We had a blast, great learning experience, all these things. But as an adult, I could only spend about 18 months in corporate life before I was like, whoa, the wall. Because you talked about it though, Christina, you talked about your life, right? You love the stability, right? I hated the stability because I've been 100% commission my whole life. So when someone came to me and was like, well, here's your salary and do this work, and then you end up, just because I like what I do, so I end up doing more of the work. Right? And then nothing happens. the check's the same. And I'm thinking to myself, this is not right. This is not right. So I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. My wife looked at me one day. She's like, just go start your own company. I can see
that is
the
funny.
wheels turning. I can see you want to do it. But see, that was the motivator. I wanted to make my industry better. My statement of my company is that we want to leave the car business better than we found it. That's it. It's that simple. I'm not trying to overcomplicate shit. I just, easy. But Christina, I gotta be honest with you about something, and I like to do this with folks. And it's tough, right? Because I'm me. I'm a 40-year-old white male. Okay, so I understand where struggles are in the world, and they're not really around me, and I get that. But for your situation, Christina, you have the passion. But now, is there pressure because you were such a high-ranking official? As you put it, colored women, is that sort of thing, is it passion for you? Is it fear for you now? Or is it a wonderful combination of both? Because I imagine the pressure of being in that position, not only helping women, which is phenomenal, but there's that additional layer, women of color, that there's more to it than that. It's not that simple. So how do you deal with that in this equation?
Yeah, it's working with women of color, Black women especially. It's definitely, it's not easy. It's complex, and I say that to say, it's because of a lot of the environments that people are coming out of. So when you think about the imposter syndrome in general, I'm going to take us back to what we were talking about. I think everyone has some aspect of, whenever you're starting something new, you feel a little bit inadequate. Now, usually when you are a part of, let's say, a majority population, that those feelings aren't necessarily always affirmed. But when you add the dynamic of being a woman of color onto the mix, that's where it starts shifting in terms of a delineation of experience, because of microaggressions, because of prejudices, because of blatant racism. A lot of times in these environments, people are not only affirming your private thoughts, they are showing it in action. There's been many times where I've been made to feel as if I really don't belong. And it's not necessarily because of my capability, but because of the color of my skin, or because I don't fit into the stereotype that they thought I was going to fit in, or because I'm not a cultural fit, whatever words that we use to dress it up. We ostracize certain groups of people. And so when I say it's complex, it's because you're not only having to unravel the natural tendency to feel like you're learning something new, or to feel like you are involved with an environment, you're also having to unravel the very real experience of people going in every workday, facing these microaggressions, facing this behavior, and then feeling as if afterwards you're being gaslit because you're being told, oh, that's not how it is, or that's not what we mean, or no, you're exaggerating. I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah, and that's what I mean, right? Because that's sort of weight, but it has to be the fuel in there for you as well, Christina. I have to imagine that you say to yourself, yeah, well, guess what? That's not how this is going to be. That's not how this is going to stay. And my company is here to make sure of that. And I love that. I can't imagine how much women feel at ease talking with someone like you about your situation. And I'm not saying anything about color of skin. I'm saying just women in general. I watch it all. I mean, the car business, are you kidding me? I've watched it my whole life. You have women who are beyond skilled, the most skilled on a floor. And it's like, but what about that time of the month? Right? I mean, it's ridiculous. Machismo bullshit you would never say
to a
person standing next to you, but you'd be happy to say amongst groups of other people. It's what drives me nuts about corporations. I'll be honest with you. There's just so much of this is the way, and this is the way, and it's like, the way is so dated, it's so boring, and it sucks, frankly. I don't care for the way, but you're cutting out a different path. When you do that because you said the murky middle, it seems to me the difference is confidence at its basics, right? So when Lori said imposter syndrome to me, she goes, Sean, that's probably what you have. I immediately thought to myself, no, confidence is not something I have in short order.
You don't lack that.
No, it's a problem of mine. It's an overinflation of that sort of thing. And so that's not it. And then she brought up the murky middle. I'm like, well, yeah. You see, now I feel more like, okay. And then when I said it to my therapist, Christina, my therapist, like, took her notes. She goes, what was that, Sean? I said, oh, the murky middle. She's like, you read books I don't. I'm like, whoa, hold on.
Oh, wow.
I definitely am not doing that. You know that about me. And so, yeah, I turned her on to the concept, and I'm going to be tagging her on this video because I want her to see it, because she herself, like I told you, she said, oh, you're 40. This is what's happening. It's, people call it the midlife crisis, but you start looking back, looking forward, and thinking. For you, for the murky middle, because confidence, I've got to imagine, to get where you got and to get where you are, you had to have a fair level of it. And along with particularly thick skin would also be my guess. How did you, or what was the moment for you? Was there a moment, is it fair to say, where this sort of whole thing was like, boom, murky middle, this clicks? Like, tell me about that sort of lead up.
You know, I think it was a collection of moments. I knew that at a certain point in my life, I really was grappling with the imposter syndrome. It was a lack of confidence. I didn't feel like I was worthy enough or I belonged in certain spaces, especially since I rose fairly quickly. That was very distinct. But I knew when I started transitioning and I knew what I had to offer, I knew the results I was getting, it didn't feel the same anymore. While like some of the symptoms presented the same way in terms of maybe some anxiety or frustration, the root was not the same. I really knew that I was a worthy candidate. I knew it was great. However, I knew, but ahead of me, there was a different set of decisions that I needed to make. And there was a larger overarching, listen, this is more of an alignment issue with what I feel like is my calling in life. It has a deeper meaning versus just what I'm going to do tomorrow or how do I thrive in the workplace tomorrow. And so my perspective really shifted. And as I started talking with a lot of my clients who would come to me, because, and I have a lot of very high achieving, very high level profile women who contract me as their strategist, and we have these conversations. We have something that I call confidential conversations on a regular basis, where I'm hearing their thoughts, and it just came up so often, where they were saying like, listen, I've done all of this, but this is how I feel. I've made these accomplishments, but this is how I feel. And it was just, to me, so blaringly obvious. It was a huge difference, but no one talked about the difference. I think people are really excited when they find a term that explains something, but I think you also get into the slippery slope where you overuse that term and it's used for everything, right?
Yeah,
Which is what I think.
Or you expect now that you've named it to somehow you're going to wake up and feel differently about yesterday, right? When the reality is, the name is helpful, like any good brand image, right? Must come with a name, must understand its steps. But you said a word I've circled here a couple times. You said calling.
Yeah.
You found your calling. Is it fair to say the first time in your working life that you've ever felt that terminology really applied to your life and your work?
Yeah, honestly, that's a great question. And I would have to say the answer is absolutely yes. I think I've always been the type that has been very planned. I am very much driven in terms of being goal oriented, wanting to get to certain either salary goals or position goals by certain points of my life. I was very driven. However, I was driven at the things that I was praised for. I was praised for my ability to communicate. I was praised for my ability to have strategy. And so those are the paths that I went on. Now, that wasn't necessarily bad per se, but I never really gave myself the opportunity or the chance to see how do I use those skills that I most enjoy in a way that's going to craft an experience that I find fulfilling. I was basically following a template or a blueprint that was given to me, like get a good job, do well, excel, get the car, get the nice place, all of the things that we are all told define a successful life. And honestly, I was really happy in my accomplishments when I was doing that until they started running dry. They started feeling empty. And I realized that it wasn't necessarily happiness. It was just more so adrenaline because I was checking things off my list. But then once you come at the end of your list and there's nothing left, and it's like, wait a second, this didn't bring me the type of satisfaction I thought I would have. That's when people start to spiral. That's when there's no other step. Nobody talks about, okay, what then? What after you've reached this point do you do? How do you lean into that unknown? How do you lean into that uncertainty? And I know something that I really advocate for, especially with my clients. I'm even hosting a conference this fall, like with this moniker. It's called Known. And you have to really put some thought into what do you actually want to be known for? Because when you operate from a sense of being known, you operate from a sense of what legacy am I bringing? And legacy moves very different from something that's just a job or something that's tactical. When you think about what do you want to be your mark, what do you want to be associated with your name, your decisions start changing and they start really pulling you in terms of that alignment. So it's not something that we're shoving to the side as something that I will never accomplish or I never thought this was possible. You start giving some credibility to those unspoken dreams and seeing how they can now come up in terms of how you're crafting your future going forward.
And when you look at the corporate America blueprint, as you put it, right, you talk about how you were motivated by what you were told to be motivated by.
Yes.
People would say to you, you're great at this. And you're like, cool. Then that's the goal. Do more of this, be better with this. And it never really developed into anything more than check mark, check mark, check mark.
Yeah.
It's like when we were kids, you go to school, you get all your grades, check, 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 check. And so that's what started to wear on me was I didn't get if every time you gave me a goal and I hit it, were we just going to keep doing this?
Exactly.
You were going to what? Give me the company someday? Like that was
right.
So what am I doing? I'm hitting your goals. Yeah. And so I love the fact that you talk about known. I love that you talk about the idea that, how is it supposed to go, right? Well, according to everyone, you're supposed to go to college, then after that, get a job, find a significant, have 2.5 children, move into the burbs, do this,
right.
Do that. That's not who I am. I don't have I've never been a parent material as far as I'm concerned. And I'm okay with that. I'm the world's best uncle. I can have fun, but you gotta go. That's how I go. But people say to me, Sean, what then why work? What is your legacy? And I think to myself, hold on. Is it the only way that I can be remembered is for being a parent who left his kids?
Right.
Like, this is not fair. I don't agree to this. And so I'm going to leave my legacy in my industry the way I plan to do it from day one. Whether someone says that guy only changed one store, well, then 1 out of 7,000 it is, and that's what I did. And that's who I am. So for you, when you look at the known right now, today, how much different is it being the boss than it was being the employee?
Honestly, while I don't want to pigeonhole myself, I think I am fully unemployable at this point. I think
it's my favorite term in the world right now. People asked me the other day, someone's like, what if I wrote you a check for this? I said, no, hold on.
Yeah.
I'm not going to your meetings. Okay, I don't do those.
Yes.
I'm not going to the corporate retreats because I don't do those either. I'm not going to travel because I don't like doing that anymore. And so I just was like, there's no one's ever going to hire you for this, dude. So you went from, I have it in my notes here, you went from loving the known paycheck to now being the hunter who is unemployable. How did we arrive here? How did we get here?
Yeah, so I don't even know. I'm looking back to be like, what in the world? I am a person of faith. So I always typically say like God literally just took over my life and put me on this path. But I will say in terms of realizing when I was in corporate environments, I think I was also still the hunter. I liked the chase. I kind of like putting myself up for higher level positions. I liked interviewing. It's after I got into the workplace where I was like, oh, okay, I'm kind of over this. I was ready to go on to the to the next endeavor. So
You can't
I
keep
think
hunting when you've already caught the catch.
exactly.
It doesn't work that way. The catch is dead, then you have to either eat it or move on, and that's it. So yeah, I get you there. That's an interesting part of the cycle, that if your brain clicks with you and says, whoa, 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 that was fun. Look, I got single friends who that's why they're single. That's they get to that point and they're like I don't really like this part anymore, and they roll. Okay. Hey, jobs, people. I mean, look, we all have to do what makes us happy, right? So
we do. I will say, it's not the chase that's keeping me going in this. It's honestly hearing the stories. It's
gotta be the work. It's gotta be the work.
It's hearing people say
about your passion, the people you work with.
Right.
Look, like I said, I'm in the car business, right? I'm trying to make the car business better. You're over here making humanity better. You're over here making it better for women of color. It's so amazing to see people with that passion and energy.
Yeah.
That's got to keep you going. The hunt of it has to be, you got to get paid. You have people who work with you, for you.
Yes.
Everyone needs to be able to have a living. We get that. We can't, as my wife says, I wish we could live on love. So do I. But somebody's got to make money to put, to pay the bill.
Yeah.
Love ain't going to do it. So, Christina, with you and your team of people that you work with and sort of the way that you roll, did the known theory or idea, this concept of your upcoming event, did this come from you, from the team, from an ongoing sort of, again, much like the murky middle, what you've been seeing? Tell me how you are, because I love the idea of this event. Sounds so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. What I realized more than anything is I really am driven by impact. I can't replicate the feeling of when I hear clients tell me, I can never see myself the same way again. You've opened my eyes to this opportunity, or saying something along the lines of, I never thought this dream was possible, but you gave me a strategy, you gave me clarity. I just can't go back. I can't be the same person I was before. And that touches you in a way that no other thing can. And so something that I realized was, there's a group of women out there. There's a group of women who are absolutely brilliant, who have the next generation of the best ideas, the best innovations, the best thoughts. And because of their situations, they are dying behind the walls of what they feel like are environments that keep them stifled, whether that's because their brilliance doesn't fit into their job title, whether that's because their organization may or may not be a place for innovation or celebrate new thoughts. That effectively a lot of women have learned, there's a risk, there is a price to pay for brilliance, and a lot of them don't want to make that step to it, because you enter in a whole different realm when you share something that's new or innovative. You enter into a realm where someone might get jealous, someone might steal your idea, someone might derail you or put you into a lower position because they don't want you to shine in the way that you have the capacity to do. And so what I realized, I used to say to myself, but so many of my clients, you find yourself saying, you know what? I've worked at this place for 10 years, 15 years, but they don't even know me. They really don't know me. They don't know what I'm capable of. They don't know the value that I could potentially bring. They don't know authentically what I can do, even if it's outside of the context of the organization. And so when I thought of the concept of known, I want people to be known for their thought leadership. I believe that so many times we're quick to give, quite frankly, males the title of thought leader or innovator. But when women say things that are just as pushing or have ideas that are just as great, they're seen as almost a fly-by-night phenomenon. They're not given the same respect. They're not given the same pillar. And so I want to work with women who understand that you may still want to advance in your career. You may not be ready to make that leap, but at the same time, your story belongs beyond the four walls of an organization, and you want to make a higher impact. You're high achieving, but you also want to make that high impact, and you want to be known for your expertise and your brilliance, and you're ready to take space in the forum where you're quoted in magazines, where you can have a speaking career, where you can be a consultant, where you can be a coach. However you see it manifesting, you belong there. Now, there's some time and energy that quite frankly, is just not always given to people who are actively working. So I wanted to create that space where people have that time to reflect and think and dream and put some breath into those visions so they can start seeing a strategy of a way forward. Because what I don't want to do is have people constantly cycling in that murky middle, feeling lost, feeling as if they're never going to be heard or seen for their value. I want them to be able to step out and show everything that they need to show in terms of what they can do in their capacity so that they are truly known in the marketplace, not simply for the superficial likes on social media or the shares, more so like you have something of depth. You have something to impact that's going to transform a community, that's going to shape the way things are done, shape the way things are seen. And I know their voices just need to get out there. And so my goal is to provide a space where they can do that and to build community in that authenticity.
Unbelievable with that sort of approach, only because it puts so much also on the person, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't just you make it sound wonderful, you do, but there's work. People have to want that. You can't just you can't want it more for them than they want it for themselves. And I think that's a lot of things people don't understand about coaching and consulting in general. I've been in a consulting role for well over a decade. I deal with millionaires, billionaires, and it's always the same thing. Yeah, no, not me. Yeah, no, not me. Well, yeah.
Or later. I'll get to it later.
Right. And you're right. The thought leader on the male side, it's, honestly, I get a little tired of the whole leadership thing anyways. Because at the end of the day, I think people just need to be better people. I think it will come off with work. It'll come off with this. I don't consider myself a leader. A lot of people say to me all the time, Sean, you're a leader in the space. Okay. But that isn't why I wake up. That isn't what I go do this for. It isn't what motivates me. So you're here, you're working with women. I assume you're also trying to, this is geared towards women who work, women who are in school, out of school, younger women. I assume it's changed a little bit with the pandemic. I understand some women are now leaving the workforce once again to sort of, go back away from that. What's changed for you in the job? And by the way, did you start this whole thing during the pandemic or just before? Because the timing of everything looks pretty crazy. So walk me through that part of it.
So let me back up and answer some of your first questions in terms of who this event is really for. It is geared for corporate professionals, but it's also geared for entrepreneurs who want to take the space, who haven't maybe been seeing the results. Typically, my clientele, they've worked a good 5-10 years in their role. So they're not necessarily always completely entry level. They're usually management or above to executive levels who, like we talked about, they have experience, they have the receipts, they have the degrees. It's about figuring out how you're going to package it in order going forward. And so a lot of them are technically still in those corporate America positions, which I don't believe everyone is necessarily called to make the leap into full-time entrepreneurship. It's quite frankly not for everyone. But what I like to do,
and people need to be cautious of it. I hear one of the most offensive things I ever heard when I got started was someone would say to me, well, you have your own business. And I thought to myself, what the hell does that mean? How hard I work to have my own business?
Oh yeah, it's not easy.
I guess maybe it's a compliment because I make it look easy. Maybe that's why people would say that, but that's some shit right there. No, that is not how life works. It is entrepreneurship is not for everyone. And and I caution people, just because someone is doing it doesn't mean they're doing it well, doesn't mean they're actually enjoying themselves,
making money.
More importantly, and it's not a savior. It's not a savior. Corporate America, just starting your own business, you're not going to just feel better. I used to say when I first started my business, I'm great to have no boss. Well, that's because I had no clients. Now I got 70 plus clients. I'm like, shit, I got 70 bosses now. Like, what was I thinking? What was I doing? But it's different. So for you with the corporate America piece, that's really that's like you say, that's the demo for you, right? Is the 5 to 10 years?
I will say that's typically people who come to me. Some people are purely entrepreneurs, but a lot of them is what I consider being at the foot of entrepreneurship, meaning that you have the professional experience. You're just trying to figure out how do you monetize and own your own voice and your thought leadership in a way that's also going to create another impact stream as well as an income stream that helps really support the legacy that you're looking to build. And so I believe that there's a very lucrative space that a lot of women don't tap into that uses their message and their expertise in an advisory role, in a speaking capacity, in a coaching capacity, or a consulting capacity, that we're just not exactly sure, okay, what are the actual steps needed to get there? And so my goal is to really help people get clear on their message so they understand, okay, what do you want to be known for, but how do we get to that space where you're actively offering? Because that's a space that's dedicated for you. People are waiting to hear your story. They're waiting to hear the lessons that you learned. They're waiting to hear the ideas that you have, the thoughts that you have, or the innovations that you come up with. However, if you don't take residency in that space, it will remain vacant. And so what I want to do is allow people to see that they do have an audience waiting for them. It's just a matter of empowering you to see what is needed in order to actually put the practical steps in place to get there. And so I always love working with women who may be curious about figuring out, okay, how else can I leverage my career, both advance my career. And when I say career, I mean not only your 9 to 5, but I also mean entrepreneurship, because I feel like we are really going into, and really probably are in the middle of a phase in the working population in general, where we need to stop treating them as if they're completely different segments. People who are in corporate America have very lucrative entrepreneurial careers. People who were born and bred entrepreneurial can also be employed by companies, right? Like there's a blurring of lines between corporate and entrepreneurship that I really want to craft for this group. And I believe that organizations that understand that this is happening will be at the forefront, and those who don't and try to segment are going to be left behind, because people have sat home the last year seeing that there's opportunity to work remotely or use your voice or still make an impact while still advancing in your traditional career. And so why not really cultivate a space where people can do both, as opposed to pretending as if this is pre-pandemic and everything is separated in the way it was.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's, the side hustle, right? The side hustle has become,
Which I hate the term, but
yeah, a piece of the deal, right? And I don't like the term either. I think it's silly, but part-time jobs, what I used to call, right? I used to have 3 jobs, a full-time job, 2 part-time jobs. And it was just, I enjoyed different industries and meeting people. And of course I was young, motivated by money. I can't help myself. That was
right.
Motivator when I was younger. It's not now, but first of all, I like how you say the division of entrepreneurship and corporate, right? Because you're already trying to hedge your bet to make yourself employable, right? You're already doing that. You're already trying to get both of those jobs if we need it, which I appreciate, because you never know, right? You never know. But if you're gonna, here's my biggest thing, because I just ran into this situation with my wife. She, young woman on social media, can do some side hustle stuff for her. She has a job, she has her own business, but she's also doing this other, meal, helping people understand their dietitian stuff. And so she's like, cool, I want to talk to her. Well, the girl promises the world and in 3 weeks delivers 0. 0, and wants to charge for it, right? Wants to charge a monthly fee. And my wife's like, I'm over it. I'm like, well, okay, well, let's talk through it. And she's like, yeah, here's what she promised. Here's what she didn't do. Here's what she promised. Here's what she didn't do. So people, if you're going to do the side hustle, I got news for you. You got to work twice as hard when you're done with work, the real work at the side. You cannot do part-time side hustle and make the side hustle work. Okay. So I love how you talk about the division. Corporations better wrap their minds around how they're going to keep employees.
Absolutely.
Right? Because the entrepreneurial spirit is as high as it's ever been.
Yes.
Everybody looks at what they know, that's how I started Car Biz. I had an owner come to me and say, you know more than anyone I've ever met on this topic. Why wouldn't you just have a business on this topic? And I said, no one has a business on that topic. Can't even make money. He said, figure out a way. And so we created a niche. We are someone who the term vendor management didn't exist until we got here in the car business.
Wow.
Now people copy us all the time. It used to scare the hell out of me, Christina. I used to be like, oh my God, people are going to steal our tech. There is no tech. Okay? I use Google Drive, anyone who's asking, right? And an $8 screen recording app. Come get it. Come be us. You can't.
Right.
What you cannot do is you cannot be me. You cannot be my team of people.
Exactly.
The passion that drives us. And you, young woman, are so full of passion. You make me think I can do more. And I already think enough of myself. So it's pretty amazing for me to sit here and go, so am I not applying myself? You know, like, well, I thought I'd gone out of the murky middle after talking to Lori about it, but it seems like when I talk to you, I'm back in it going, well, but. So for you, and let's talk about it because I mentioned it just now. The idea of the murky middle isn't just something you have to be stuck in. This is not quicksand. It is a growth progression. Is that how you would look at it?
Yeah, honestly, and I love that you use the term quicksand because it's really what I use to describe it. I think if we think of the dynamic of regular quicksand, right? The more you struggle, the more you fight it, the more you get stuck. And I think the best thing you can do when you are in the stage of the murky middle is really give it the sacredness and the credibility it needs to be still in that moment. Figure out and take it as an observation period, as a period of reflection. You don't necessarily need to make a billion decisions in it. I think going with the flow of it and understanding that you're about to embark on a new season, something that's different, something that you may have never thought would exist, but you have a strange call or a pull towards it, letting it happen and really leaning in. I know I talk about this a lot, but leading with the perspective of hope. And I say hope meaning more so a sense of expectation that, you know what, where there's smoke, there's usually fire. And so let's lean into thinking about what we might have dismissed because of circumstances, but might actually have some credibility. 10 years ago, or when I started my corporate career, I never thought I would be speaking at organizations. I was good at it, but I didn't think that would be my career. But something that never left me was this vision of me speaking on stages or having these talks. I didn't know what I was talking about. I didn't know who I was speaking to, but I know they felt very real. But I also know I kept dismissing them. But the second I put it in the forefront and started leaning into that curiosity, started leaning into the hope that maybe there is something to it, that's when the opportunities started to open. And me being a very analytical, being a very structured person, I hate saying things that sound fluffy, but sometimes I think it's just, I refuse to say the term going with the flow, but there's I feel like an intentional process that you can take, and it's something that I walk through with my clients in that particular space to make sure that you are looking literally all over so that the opportunity that's supposed to come, you are taking it and you're giving it the proper credibility. I think we are all presented with opportunity. We don't always mark things as opportunity. And so it helps change your lens of saying, you know what, I'm going to take a chance on that. Or, you know what, people keep coming to me and asking me to do this. This isn't my job, but maybe I should look over here. Maybe I really am good at this. Yeah. I know one of my mentors said at one point, there are things that you have tried that you're really good at, but there's also things that you've never tried that you're even better at, right? And so that really provides the space for that.
Yeah, it's funny you don't like the idea of the concept of just, go with the flow, let things be, right? So like, I'm a hippie by nature, okay? I'm a huge Grateful Dead fan. I have hair out the back of my head. It's who I am. It's what I wear Birkenstocks any chance I get. It's what I believe in, right? It's what helps guide me. But I'll say this: the way you're describing the work part of it is exactly what I myself dealt with, but in relation to my personal life. I always worked. So there was never a what Sean going to do for work. I figured I would work 70 hours a week for the rest of my life, especially owning my own business.
Yeah.
But about 2 years ago, just before the pandemic, I realized that my company was a really well-oiled machine. And that if I kept it where it was and didn't try to make it big, I had an uncle advise me, hey, you can either have $1 million company where you can live your life and enjoy everything, or you can have a $5 million company and never do anything but that. And I chose the path of a company that made money, but that I didn't need to dedicate 1 million hours to.
Yeah.
And now I'm using the phrase that I try to live more than I work. And people look at me like I'm freaking crazy. But the reality is I never felt like I belonged spending time outside of work.
Right.
And my wife been with me 17 years. I mean, it's so, and I never thought I would get the time to spend with her. And now we spend every day together,
Yeah,
almost all the time. So I think this applies to life. And I think
I
that
would agree.
with the idea of go with the flow. My point there was, and you said it right before you said go with the flow,
Mhm,
which is I just term it be still and listen.
mhm.
Be still and listen, because going with the flow, then you just keep going. You
Yeah,
couldn't possibly see what was behind you if you kept going. So
right.
I like to just stop, take a
Yeah,
breath, and go, okay, here
you
we
need
are.
a
And I
moment.
can't believe I spend as much time not working as I do anymore. It's
Yeah,
crazy to me, but I have a balance of life and work that I never thought possible. I was definitely in a murky middle more in life
yeah.
than in work. So it's
No,
such
I think
a
it shows up a lot of different places. And I love the fact that you opened the door to that. I don't think it's siloed just to your career or business. I think it's something that a lot of us face in different places. I mean, even myself, while I have monetary goals in business, I also have vacation goals. I want to take a certain percentage off of the year every single year. And it's a hefty percentage, and so that is what I am working towards. And that helps in terms of focusing me in terms of what structure of business is going to work to support that, right? That means I can't do necessarily every structure of business. I can't do a one-on-one for every single client or something. I have to scale. And so what's going to allow me to still have that same impact, but also disappear for the times that I need to recharge? Because I am still very much an introvert, although I do a lot of things public facing. And so I think it is important. I think especially when you're looking to reach certain goals, I always love the balance of life, or the harmony more so than the balance, and understanding that I have very ambitious monetary goals, and I'm going whatever I need to do to craft my but I'll say I have monetary goals, but I also have life goals that take just as much precedence, and I don't want to sacrifice either. And so, what can I do in order to maybe at different phases in life prioritize one thing over another? So, for instance, for me, I'm single. I don't necessarily have to spend time or have dinner with someone on a regular basis. However, I'm also not going to pigeonhole myself so far where that's not an option ever, because I eventually see myself shifting into another season. So just being strategic about how are you setting up your life. And I think a lot of the clients that I work with are in places where their attention is pulled, right? Most likely you might have kids, or you might have a spouse, or you might have other obligations, like in terms of volunteering or community commitments. And there needs to be a real discussion about how much time do you actually have to devote to this? Who do we need to hire or get them on board with your team? Or what can you do in the interim to make this come to life? Because we can't pretend as if we don't have other things pulling our attention. The decision point is, are we going to take the time to really give life and give thought and reflection and action to those things that are pulling us, so that we can set up a longer term trajectory that allows us to still give life to the dream and meet our responsibilities in other places.
Once again, again, my notebook is just it's overfilled here with all of these thoughts, because I want to come back to the idea that you were just talking about, when you go as far as with people and looking at where they belong and what your spot is. I love people. I love talking to people who have goals. You're very goal oriented. I can hear that about you. I don't have them. My goal is to live. And people are like, oh, that's so cheesy. It's so lame. It's like, yeah, I lived in a world when I ran dealerships, was on my way to owning dealerships.
Yeah.
That 30-day cycle go, 30-day cycle go, 30 day, and it never ever ended. And it never ever went down. It was always more. And it put me in a position where I lived that way, right? I had to have the house, the fancy cars, the most of this, the most of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then a financial crisis hits in 2009. I'm left with absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
With zero, except for my wife. The only thing that's consistent is her in the deal. And so I started to think, dude, is money really what you're after? Is this really what you want to be? And as soon as that switch flipped, it's being an entrepreneur. It's great. I love making my own money. I love doing the hunt. I love working with my clients. Nothing makes me happier. But Man, it was tough because even people say to me, Sean, what's the goal for the company's growth this year? It doesn't have one. Its goal is to stay here, dude. That is it. If I get stuck in goals, I feel like I'll lose my way. So when you talk about goals, and I will wrap it up after this, but when you talk about goals with your clients, and this is going to sound, I hope it doesn't sound rude because I'm not trying to be rude, but in the coaching mentality, when I hear it, it's all about goals. What if someone isn't into goals? What then, Christina? How do we then work with them, or do we say, look, get goals? Because that didn't work for me. So I'm wondering out loud how I would even approach the situation with someone.
Yeah, so I think goals is probably one of those overused terms as well, right? Where I think that's why people say they don't have goals, is because they might not see them in the same way that other people may see them. And so even in terms of other words like passions, I would say for the majority of my life, I never thought I was passionate about anything. I couldn't point to one thing and say like, oh man, that drives me, I'm passionate about it. I think everyone has an idea of the impact they want to leave. So for instance, I'll explain my impact. I know through my voice, I want to impact at least 1 million people, in terms of not just hearing me, but I want you to have some sort of transformation as a result of your interaction with me. However long that takes, that is what I want to accomplish. And that is what drives every single thing that I do. Now, that's not everyone's same goal, right? Or that's not everyone's same desire, but I would challenge anyone who says that they don't want to accomplish anything, because typically if they are saying that, that just means you haven't had the space or the time to really reflect on where you want to have that impact. And a lot of times it's because we're pushed into environments where you're forced to perform and you get results that you don't care about. So then you become apathetic about everything. And so I would have a person like that kind of take some time and understand that their apathy might be a response to their past, but that doesn't mean it needs to define where they're going through. Not to say you have to be the stereotypical person who's like so passionate about like knitting and all this stuff, and you want to try, like, you may never be that person, but I'm almost positive there's something or some transformation that you feel like you are supposed to make in someone. Maybe it's your kids, maybe it's your community group, maybe it is your job, maybe it's in your marriage, whatever it is, there is something that you want to touch and not leave the same. That's what I would have someone really focus on, and then start going through the layers of why is it that thing? Why is it important to you? Why is that prioritized in your mind? What can we do if you so desire to expand that, right? Because maybe, let's say your focus is on your marriage. Maybe you really want to make your marriage the best ever. Maybe the lessons learned that you're doing in order to make that marriage transform is something that can be used by other people. So if you do have that entrepreneurial mindset, after you've done the work in your own life, what can you potentially do to share those lessons on a grander scale so that other people aren't running into the same roadblocks as you? I would say they always say what everyone has $1 million idea, right? Everyone has something that strikes them. We might not always mark it as valuable. We might not always mark it as important, but a lot of times there's something there. There's something that's attached to what you care about. It's if you really do care about it, and if there's a market for it, if there's an industry for it, then inherently there's going to be a business opportunity. Now, you can choose to do it or not. You don't necessarily have to. The people I typically work with understand that they might not be driven by the business opportunity initially, but they understand that there is opportunity, and they at the very least want to investigate, what can I actually do to show up in this way?
Like I said before, you motivate me to be looking and thinking more about what it is that I do. You talk so much about the word passion, and I have a ton of passion for what I do in life. I've got some passion that's outside of the business world that sort of creeps into my LinkedIn. I get weird messages from people who are like, "Oh my gosh, should you really be talking about this and your passion when you run a business in another industry?" And it's like, yeah, because I'm passionate about it, and I think it's I think it's important that people understand, and so you can run into weird conversations with people who say to me, "Hey, I would have done business with you, but I found out you were into this, or you were pro that, or pro that." So, okay, look, I am who I am, and so
Yeah.
I started this podcast. I think, Christina, you'll be episode 193. Okay,
Wow.
190 something. And so we do it every Monday. We've never missed a Monday. This is the 193rd straight Monday.
That's some
This show
consistency.
has been published. Okay. It's cool. It's great, but it's not, we started it so that we could have people figure out they didn't want to do business with us, which I know sounds weird.
No.
But if you listen to the first 5 podcasts, you'll hear me say a lot of wild, crazy stuff that you probably go, whoa, no, and you can see it. It's every have 2 minutes, go look at the YouTube page for Card Biz Done Better. First 5 videos go like 1,000, 800, 600, 300. And they never return. They never return. That's to us, that's cool. That's what we expect to happen because we want you to be either in it.
Yes.
Or not. I don't need you somewhere in the middle, I guess.
Yeah. No, I think that's something that you have to prep people for when they're going when they're embarking on new things, but there's so much rejection in this space, right? Like not everyone's going to love or see or, understand what you're trying to build. And so a lot of people will reject it first before they actually love it. But what I tell all of my clients that I work with, especially as we're developing their message statements or their brand statements per se, your brand statement should serve as a filter. It should turn somebody off. Right. But it also should speak uniquely to the people that you're called to. So the clearer you get on your stance, the easier it is for people to find you. Now, it's also easy for people who aren't for you to also turn you off, which is great. Yeah. Right. Because you want that message to cater to your main demographic.
And that's no problem for us. Like I said, I talked about it with Lori, haters, whatever. If you got what makes you happy in your life, feel free. I have a rule in my life. I will never start a fight, but if I turn around, you push me in the back, all bets are off. Then I cannot help you any longer. I will always be the first guy to turn and walk away. Yeah. That is where the niceties.
That's where it ends.
It's no different online. I'm not going to engage you fully, but I'm also not going to delete things. I had someone come on a post a couple months ago and he was using real derogatory. And I said, hey, look, not here. I don't care where you do this. And someone said, Sean, delete it, get rid of it. No. Yeah. No, you reprimand like a dog. You slap him on the nose. You tell him, no, go to your bed. And if he doesn't,
not okay.
Then that's okay. He can come back again.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I'm going to get the last word if I want it. That's just who I am. That's period. If I don't want it, I will acquiesce and I will say I'm fine. I will sit in the back. But if I want it, if my passion is there, I got no use for bullies, man. I got bullied when I was a kid. I got none for it. Period. Yeah. I don't care if it's life, work, no matter. Bullies are weak and it's fun to look at because they don't realize that. But with what we do here, Christina, the work that you do, I gotta say, I'm impressed. I've been talking to you now for about 50 minutes. I'm wondering how I sign up. Sounds like you work a lot with women. I'm going to try to get my name
on board. You are more than welcome.
It's everybody. All right. No, and so it's so cool. I really love it. Where can folks find you, Christina? Where can we hear and follow the message that you're putting out there?
Absolutely. So I'm on all social platforms, mainly on LinkedIn and Instagram. So if you search my name, Christina Joy Whitaker, or at Christina Joy Whitaker, that's Whittaker with 2 T's, you can find me there. You can also look up my company. We operate out of www.pivotbrandgroup.com. You can also find me there where I talk about some of my speaking topics that I have and different ways that we can actually officially work together. For anyone also interested in either partnering with the conference as a sponsor or even coming and attending, all of that information is available at www.knownlive.com. And you can find all the information you need on that platform.
Wow, unbelievable. Christina, make sure that when this post goes live on LinkedIn, go in the comments and link all this stuff in there. Okay. Let everybody see it. Let everybody know. Please, please, please. I want people to follow this. I want people to be involved. I think the work that you're doing is not only great, but it makes a difference. It makes a difference. And your goal of 1 million people, in 50 minutes, I'm a fairly decent judge of character. I say you get there, and you probably get there faster than you think.
I appreciate that.
You're a shining star. Your unbelievable passion and energy has been so much fun to have on the show. I thank you so much for your time and spending it with us here on our Mental Health Monday. The guys and gals who joined us, she told you where she can find her. she also told you that pretty much anything in your life that you want, you can have it, but you're going to have to work for it. It's not going to just find you, and it might not even be what you were looking for. And the quote that I'm going to leave myself with is this concept that I believe you said your mentor told you, which is you're good at some things, but there are some things you don't even know that you're even better at. That's going to motivate me for the rest of my week. I hope it does the same for you all. Thank you so much and have yourselves a wonderful week. We'll see you again next week.
Thanks.